Right. Basically, constant volume gas thermometer consists of 3 bulbs, B1, B2, and B3. Okay. So here, bulb 1 consists of ideal gas, and bulb 2 and bulb 3 consists of mercury. Okay. So the condition is always, so you should maintain the mercury at this level, so that the volume of the gas present inside this tube will remain constant. So that is the main idea of keeping the mercury at 0 level. So if the mercury is at 0 level, the gas present inside the bulb B1 is always constant, right? So the first step will be the calibration of the thermometer. Not only thermometer, any instrument, if you want to make use of that, first you should calibrate that, right? So that we will get the correct reading. So in order to calibrate that, first the thermometer bulb should be exposed to the known values. So for those known values, we are taking triple point, that is triple point of water. So the temperature is 0.01 degrees centigrade, and the pressure of the triple point is 14 point. How much it is? What is the triple point pressure? 4.58 mg of mercury. So 4.58 mg per mm of mercury, right? So first the bulb is exposed to the triple point temperature, and you should find out the height corresponding to the temperature. You should get it as 4.58. So when you are getting the height of the mercury corresponding to triple point exposed temperature, then we can say that it is perfectly calibrated. Or if you are getting any less value from 4.58, what does it mean? You need to add some mercury. If you are getting more than 4.58, you should remove the excess mercury. That is the calibration. Once it is calibrated, then we can expose this bulb to the any unknown temperature. Okay. So for that, if you expose to the unknown temperature, what happens? Let us assume you are exposing the temperature greater than the atmosphere. Let us say so T atmosphere. Then what happens? So due to the more temperature, the pressure of the gas will increase. At the same time, volume will also increase. Then this will push the mercury in the bulb B2 downward direction, right? So then our aim is always to maintain the volume of the gas constant. In order to make that, you need to adjust this bulb B3, because B2 and B3 are connected with flexible tube. So there is a provision that we can move this bulb B3 up and down, so that we can make the mercury in bulb B2 at 0 level, right? So when the volume is increases, it pushes the mercury in B2 downward direction. In order to bring back the mercury to the same level 0, you need to lift the B3 upward direction, right? So when you lift the B3 upward direction, the H value will change. The corresponding H value will give the head corresponding to the temperature exposed, that is T unknown. The corresponding head H unknown we are getting now, right? So as we know that P atmosphere is P absolute is equals to P absolute is equals to P atmosphere plus rho g H, right? Where H is the H unknown. If you know H unknown, atmosphere pressure is known, absolute pressure corresponding to this particular temperature is known. By using the relation P unknown by T unknown is equals to P triple point by T triple point. So therefore, unknown temperature T unknown is equals to, so how to get P unknown into T triple point by P triple point. This is the formula we are going to make use in order to find out the unknown temperature by using the ideal gas thermometer. Is it is clear? Very simple explanation. Is it is clear or not? Compulsory question for final exams.
Clear, sir.
Clear right now. Right. Now I'm going to explain about how the Kelvin scale existed. Okay. Now, so usually by using ideal gas thermometer only, I'm going to explain. Let us consider temperature in degrees centigrade in x-axis and pressure in bars on y-axis. Okay. Right. So here also let us say temperature scale is there. Now what is the temperature at this point? What is the temperature at this point? is the origin? 0.
Zero,
Right?
sir.
0. Temperature is 0. Pressure is also 0. Okay. Now, so let us say this is our ideal gas thermometer for understanding sake. So this is bulb B1, this is the bulb B2, and this is the bulb B3. So this is the flexible tube, right? This is the mercury level. This is 0, and here you have mercury. This is the head H we are going to measure. Okay. Now what we are going to do? We are going to take 3 gases. Okay. So let us assume 3 ideal gases we are taking: helium, argon, and hydrogen. Let us assume I'm taking 3 gases: helium, argon, and hydrogen. Okay. First case, I am taking helium as the gas in a thermometer, ideal gas thermometer. First, I am taking helium gas. First, the bulb is my voice is audible, or can I speak louder?
No, audible, sir.
Audible. Okay. First, the bulb is exposed to the bulb consists of helium gas, and it is exposed to the room temperature. Right. So when the bulb is exposed to the room temperature, so what can you measure from here? From H value, you can measure pressure. You can measure P absolute is equals to P atmosphere plus rho into G into H unknown. Yes or no? This formula is familiar to us. Right now?
Yes, sir.
Right. First, the bulb is exposed to the room temperature, and the corresponding pressure we are noting down. Let us say that value is this one. Let us say on this graph I am showing. So what is this temperature? Temperature corresponding to room temperature, right? Now what happened? Now I am decreasing the temperature. Let us say initially we expose the bulb to the 30 degrees centigrade room temperature. Let us assume it is summer, 30 degrees centigrade. Now I am decreasing the temperature to the 25 degrees centigrade, and the corresponding, after getting equilibrium, the corresponding pressure I am going to note down. So let us say this is the pressure, the corresponding pressure. Okay. Now again further I am decreasing the pressure temperature. Let us say 20 degrees centigrade. I am exposing the thermometer bulb and the corresponding temperature. Now 0 degrees centigrade. Let us say not 0 degrees centigrade. Let us say cooler, not 0. Let us say 5 degrees centigrade. Before 5 degrees centigrade, and we got the point. And if you go for negative, let us say minus 5 degrees centigrade. Let us say this one. Now beyond 5 degrees centigrade, what will happen? If you go beyond 5 degrees centigrade, this helium will be. So what happen if you cool the gas? Tell me. Can anyone? If you cool the gas, what will happen? It will be converted into. Can anyone please answer? Liquid. So yeah, if you cool the gas beyond a certain point, it will become liquid. Therefore, I can't use that particular gas. Now, what I am going to do? I am going to change the gas from helium to argon. Now, I am going to change the gas as argon now. Similar color, I will change. Right. Now, I am taking argon. Again, I am exposing the argon to the same these particular temperatures. Then the corresponding points, pressures I am noting down. Let us say, it is going, let us say beyond. Okay. So these points corresponding to which gas? Argon. Okay. So these points corresponding to argon, and these points corresponding to helium. Right. After this point, what will happen? It will get condensed. The gas will get condensed. Okay. Now I am taking third gas. Now I am joining these lines. Let us say you will get straight line if you draw. This is one point, other point, other point, other point, other point. So at this point, this is the temperature minus temperature. Okay. So earlier also, I'll take, I'll join those things. So these are the pressures corresponding to the. These are what is on x-axis? These are all what? Temperatures. Right. We started with room temperature, and this is the point where it is getting condensed. After this, it cannot exist. Okay. And finally, I am taking which gas I'm taking? Let us say I'm taking hydrogen. Hydrogen is having it can withstand more lower temperatures also. And let us say this is the room, when we expose room temperature, this is the pressures corresponding those values. And let us say this is it is slightly below that gas. The points are slightly below that gas. So if you join, you will be get straight line only. If you join with the pencil. Okay, now at this point the gas is getting condensed, right? Now if you interpolate by extending these lines further, all these three lines are going to meet at a point. All these three lines are going to meet at a point, right? At this point the temperature is minus 273 degrees centigrade. The point where these three lines are intersecting, at that point the temperature is minus 273 degrees centigrade, meaning that what is the meaning of minus 273 degrees centigrade? What is this value in absolute scale? This value is equal to 0 Kelvin. Yes or no, right? So at this temperature the gas does not exist, right? So we can, in fact we can say that this is the ultimate lowest temperature. It is the ultimate lowest temperature it can exist in the, so means below this the temperature cannot exist. Below this the temperature cannot exist. At this temperature all the particle motion would stop to 0. So particle motion will be ceased. At this temperature particle motion is equals to 0, absolute 0 temperature. Okay, no? So nothing is existing. It is the lowest temperature possible in the universe. It is the lowest possible temperature in the universe. That is the 0 Kelvin or minus 273 degree centigrade, right? So from here to here, what is this difference? It is 0 degree centigrade. It is 273 degree centigrade. This difference is 273 Celsius degree, right? So this difference is 273 Celsius degree. From this, the Kelvin came into existence. Means if you add 273 to the degree centigrade, it will be converted into Kelvin. Kelvin is equals to degree centigrade plus 273. So minus 273 degrees centigrade is the lowest temperature, nothing but 0 Kelvin. This is the lowest temperature possible. At that point, all the particles motion will be 0, means the particle will be at rest position and we cannot achieve below that point. This point is called absolute 0 temperature. Absolute 0 temperature. Absolute 0 temperature means it is minus 273 degrees centigrade or 0 Kelvin. It is the lowest temperature in the universe, 0 Kelvin or minus 273 degrees centigrade. So that is absolute 0 because at this temperature no particle will be under motion. Means all particles will come to the static condition, rest condition. Motion will be 0. Because if you heat the gas, then only the particle will be actuated, right? If the temperature is decreased, the velocity of the particle will be decreased. And means the velocity will become 0 when the temperature reaches to minus 273 degrees centigrade. Is it is clear? Absolute 0 temperature. So again, I am explaining once again in glance, right? So what we are doing. So we are taking ideal gas thermometer, right? In that I am taking 3 different gases: helium, argon, and hydrogen. First, I am taking substance as helium. First, I am exposing to the room temperature. First, I am exposing the ideal gas to the room temperature, and the corresponding pressure is noted. This is the temperature, and this is the pressure. Okay. So with the help of this H value, you are measuring this pressure. Now I am lowering the temperature from room temperature 30 to 25, 20, like that. I am lowering the temperature. Those corresponding pressures are also noted down, and we are plotting this line. So still we are going at this point, this will be 0 temperature and we are going below the 0 minus degrees also. At some particular point, this gas will be condensed or liquefied. We are stopping that one. So this is the point where the gas is getting condensed and we are noting down the corresponding temperature also. Now I am changing the gas from helium to the argon. I am repeating the same procedure. So room temperature at argon, then less than room temperature, again less than. Like that we are going to negative also. At some particular, the argon cannot withstand, the gas will condense and we are stopping that point. Similarly, I am taking hydrogen. Hydrogen is having better properties as compared to helium and argon. So therefore it is extended beyond those two. So the hydrogen point is somewhere here. It it is the beyond the helium and argon, right? Now, if you interpolate all these three lines, they are going to intersect the axis, temperature axis. This is the temperature axis. At some particular point, if you measure the temperature at that point, that is minus 273 degrees centigrade, or we can call it as 0 Kelvin. So we can call it as absolute zero temperature. This is the lowest temperature possible in the universe. At this point, all the particles motion will be zero, right? So beyond this, the temperature cannot exist. This temperature is noted as absolute zero temperature. Clear this? Anyone please answer? Is it is clear? Absolute zero temperature.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Absolute zero temperature is the lowest possible temperature in the universe. At that point, all the particle motion would stop to the absolute zero. All particles will be under rest position, right now? Clear now?
Yes, sir.
Right. Right. That's what here different gases which I explained just now. We are taking hydrogen, helium, and argon. So this is after this point it cannot exist the helium, and at this point it will become after this point it will be liquefied. After this point it will be liquefied. If you interpolate all these three lines, they are going to meet at a point. There the temperature is minus 273.15 degrees centigrade, or we can call it as 0 Kelvin. Okay, so here you can see here plot of pressure versus temperature for a gas as measured by a constant volume gas thermometer when extrapolated to zero pressure. When extrapolated to zero pressure, yeah, because it is intersecting at this point. Okay, so at that point zero pressure, the plot intersects the temperature axis at the value 273 minus 273.15. This is negative value left side. Okay, so where the zero, sorry, that is called absolute zero pressure. Now, last topic in the first unit, gas mixes. You might have already studied about gases in intermediate physics or chemistry. Mass fraction, molar fraction, okay, Dalton's law, Avogadro's law, Amagat law, right? You might have aware of those things, right? Maybe conventions we are using different. That's it. Okay. So these are the conventions I'm going to use throughout this topic. In some textbooks, they are using different notations. I mentioned those things also. Now, mass of the mixture is always denoted with small letter. So you can make note or wherever, because throughout this topic I'm using m suffix m means it is the mass of the mixture. Okay. So next will be mole number or number of moles will be denoted with capital N suffix m. It is the mixture, mole number of the mixture. Only mole number means capital N, or in some textbooks they are using small n also. Mole number or number of moles is capital N. Mole number of the mixture, suffix m denotes the mixture. Even you can see mass of the mixture. Mixture means suffix is small m. Here also mole number is capital N. Mole number of mixture is n suffix m. And mass fraction, in some books they are using small x. Some books we are using m suffix f. Mass fraction. Here I am using mf. In some other books they are using x also for mass fraction. And mole fraction, universally we are using y only, small y. Small y is the notation used for the mole fraction. And molar mass is capital M. Molar mass is capital M. And molar mass of mixture, as I told, mixture means suffix m will be there. Wherever mixture is there, suffix m will be there. Mole number of mixture is n suffix m, and mass of the mixture is also small m suffix. Right. Now I am going to discuss all these things in this topic. Okay, these symbols you should remember, right? So mass of the mixture, right? So to determine the properties of the mixture, we need to know the composition of the mixture. What are the individual components present inside the mixture? Okay, if you know the, let us say if you take water consists of hydrogen and oxygen, like that. If you take a water mixture, it consists of hydrogen and argon. Hydrogen and oxygen. Hydrogen and oxygen are called individual components, and water is called composition. Okay, right? So there are two ways we can describe the composition. with help of moles or with help of the mass. If you describe the mixture with help of the moles, we can call that as the molar analysis. If you are explaining by using the mole number, then we can call that analysis or molar analysis. If you are explaining with help of the mass, that is called gravimetric analysis. There are two analyses present in this case. So molar analysis and gravimetric analysis. Gravimetric analysis is based on the mass of the substance, and molar analysis is based on the number of moles of the substance. Okay, let us consider a gas mixture consists of K components. Let us take water. Water consists of how many components? In case of K, what I have to write if I consider water as the mixture? Anyone? K components I am saying, if I take mixture as the water, H2O. How to get H2O? H2 plus O2 gives rise to H2O. In order to balance, so 2H2O, that is rise to 2H2 plus O2. Yes or no? You are very familiar with this equation, right? 2H2 plus O2 gives rise to 2H2O. Hydrogen, how many? 2 into 2, 4 more molecules, right? 2 into 2, 4. 2 into O, 2 times, right? This is the equation, right? If I consider this water as a mixture, how many components are there? Anyone?
2.
2, right? One is the hydrogen, other one is the oxygen, right? Now I am going to define mass of the mixture. Mass of the mixture, as I told already, mass of the mixture is denoted by symbol. Small m is the mass, small m again suffix is the mixture. M suffix m is the mass of the mixture. It is defined as sum of mass of the mixture. Okay, is the sum of the masses of individual components, as well as, and mole number of the mixture is n suffix m, is the sum of the moles of the individual mixture. Mass of the mixture is masses of individual components of the mixture. Similarly, sum of the moles of the components are called mole number of the mixture, n suffix m. Okay, if you see, let us say we have k number of components starting with 1. So m1 plus m2 plus m3 and so on mk. In summation form, I can write sigma I equal to 1 to k. K is the number of components. M suffix I, it means let us say m1 plus m2 plus m3 and so on mk. It indicates that m1 plus one component, second component, and so on k component. This is called mass of the mixture. Mass of the mixture is nothing but sum of the masses of individual components. First component, second component, third component, and so on. Similarly, mole number of the mixture. Mole number of the mixture is equals to first mixture, second mixture, third mixture, right? So that is nothing but N1, first component moles, second component moles, third component, and so on. How many components we have? Nk. This is the mole number of the mixture. Small m denotes the mixture, capital N denotes the mole number. So n suffix m denotes the mole number of the mixture. Nothing but sum of the mole numbers of the individual components. That is n suffix m. Now, so how to define mass fraction and mole fraction, right? So how to, let us consider, a mixture consists of A, B, three different what we call say, what can we say? Can anyone? Components, right? A mixture consists of three components. This is the mixture. It consists of three components, right? So mass of the mixture is equals to, how to write mass of the mixture? Mass of mixture, tell me.
Mass of A plus
A plus mass of B plus mass of C. Similarly, mole number of the mixture. Number of moles of the mixture. Is equals to moles of A, number of moles of B plus number of moles of C. So this is the N suffix M. This is the M suffix M. Clear this one?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, right? M is the mass and suffix m is the mixture, mass of the mixture. N is the mole number or number of moles. Suffix m is the mixture. So nothing but sum of the individual moles. Similarly, sum of the individual masses. Now I am going to define mass fraction. Mass fraction, what is the symbol we are using? Mass fraction, m suffix f. Mass fraction, or in some books they are using x also. It is defined as mass of individual component to the total mass of the mixture. Mass fraction can be defined as, let us say if I want mass fraction of A, right? So let us say MFA or x suffix A is equals to mass of component A by total mass of the mixture, MA plus MB plus MC, or I can write it as MA by M suffix M. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Similarly, I can write mass fraction of mixture B, MFB or XB is equals to mass of the component B by MA plus mass of B plus total mixture MC, right now? So nothing but MB by mass of the mixture. Similarly, MFC or XC, I can write MC mass of mixture by component C by MM, right? Now, if you add mass of A plus mass fraction of A, sum of mass fractions, sum of mass fractions is equals to XA plus XB plus XC, nothing but MFA plus MFB plus MFC. What you will get? MA by MC plus MB by MC plus, sorry, M mixture, right? MM, sorry.
Yes,
mass
sir.
of mixture, MM, and MC by MM. What is the LCM? MM is the LCM. So if you MA plus MB plus MC by MM, nothing but MM by MM. This is equals to 1, means sum of the mass fractions is always equal to unity 1. Clear this one? Mass fraction.
Scroll down, it is not clear.
It's not visible.
Scroll it down, sir.
It gone. 1 second. Then I'll do one thing. I'll share it on Paint. This is visible to you? Paint. Paint is visible to all of you?
Sir, it's not showing, sir. Print.
1 second, maybe I need to share. Now you tell me. Paint is visible?
Yes, sir.
No, sir.
Paint.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Visible, sir.
Right. Black screen is visible to you, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Now, so here I need to select a pen with the color red. Let us say. Here we have mixture consists of 3 components, A, B, C. So this is the mixture. So mass of mixture is equals to
Mass of mixture is equal to MA plus MB plus MC by MM.
mass of mixture is equals to MM, right? That is equals to MA plus MB plus MC, right? And mole number of the mixture. Mole number of mixture is equals to NM is equals to NA plus NB plus NC, right? So here I'm going to discuss mole fraction as well as the mass fraction. As I discussed already, mass fraction is denoted by symbol either MF or X. Okay. So mass fraction is equals to mass of individual component individual components to the mass of the mixture.
Sure.
Is it is visible to all of
Sir,
you?
number of mixture. Moles number of mixture na sir.
Mass of the mixture. No, I'm discussing only mass fraction, not mole fraction.
Okay.
I'm repeating previous one. I will discuss both at a time. Clear na this one?
Yes.
Mass
Yes.
fraction is equals to mass of individual component by mass of the mixture. Okay, means as I told already, XA from this I can write MFA or XA is equals to MA by MF. Similarly, mass fraction of B is equals to mass of components B by MF, and mass fraction of C is equals to MC by MF. Right? If you add all, sum of mass fractions is equals to sum of mass fraction MF is equals to mass fraction of A component, mass fraction of B component plus mass fraction of C component. So that is equals to MA plus MB plus MC whole divided by MF. MM, sorry, yes. Here also MM, all.
Sorry.
Yes, sorry. Yes, everything is MM.
Okay.
This is MM. This is also MM. This is MM. Right? So total mixture MA plus MB plus MC is MM by MM. This is equals to unity. Always sum of mass fractions equal to unity. Now I will discuss mole fraction. Is it clear? Mass fraction. Mass fraction. Mass
Yes,
of
sir.
individual components to the
Yeah.
mass of the mixture. Now I will discuss mole fraction. Mole fraction is equals to moles of number of moles of individual components. Number of moles of individual components.
By number of mixtures.
Yeah, total number of moles or number of moles of mixture. Total number of moles of mixture. Moles of mixture or mole number of the mixture. Nothing but how can we write? Number of moles of individual components, right? Right. This is the mole fraction. The symbol we are using is Y. So for mixture for component A, Ya is equals to Na by Nm, and mole fraction for component B is equals to number of moles of component B by mole number of the mixture. Sorry.
M.
Right. Next. Any doubt?
No, sir.
Yeah. Next, mole fraction of component C is equals to number of moles of C by mole number of the mixture. Okay. So if you add sum of mole fraction is equals to, I'll drag this. Right. This side I want. Okay. I'll write here. Sum of mole fractions. Sum of mole fractions is equals to, what can I write? Ya plus Yb plus
Na plus Nb plus Nc by Nm.
Na plus Nb plus Nc. Na, Nb, Nc are the
NC.
number of moles of individual components. So this is Na by Nm,
Yes,
Nb by Nm, Nc by Nm. This is Ya, Yb, Yc, right? So if you add all three, so you will get Na, LCM is Nm, Na plus Nb plus Nc by Nm. So total number of moles of individual components is nothing but number of moles of mixture by Nm. This is equal to 1, meaning that, so sum of, what does it mean? What it indicates? Sum of mole fraction or mass fraction. MF1 plus MF2 and so on, MFK. Let us say there are K components. What is this value? This value is always equal to 1. Mass fractions of individual components. Sum of mass fractions of individual components is equal to 1. Similarly, Y value, right? Y1 plus Y2 plus Y3 and so on. Yk. Let us say there are K components. Y indicates that mole fraction. MF indicates that mass fraction is also equal to 1. Is it clear? Sum of the components of mole fraction, sum of the mass fractions are always equal to unity. Can I go back to the slide? Right. Here I explained the same. The ratio of mass of a component to the mass of a mixture is called mass fraction. It is denoted with m suffix f or x. Depends on the textbooks. The ratio of, then mole fraction we are discussing. The ratio of mole number of a component to the mole number of the mixture is denoted with symbol y. Okay. So MFI is equals to I component. I is the component I, Mi by mixture. Similarly, mole fraction of I component is equals to mole number of I component by mole number of the mixture. As I discussed just now, sum of the mass fractions or mole fractions is always equal to the 1. In summation form, I can say sigma I equal to 1 to k, MFI equal to 1, mass fraction equal to 1. Sigma I equal to 1 to k, mole fraction is also equal to 1. Okay. Here I given an example, same H2O, 6 kg, 32 kg, that gives rise to 38 kg, right? The mass of the mixture is equal to 38 kg. And here mole fraction 3 plus 1, that is equal to 4 kg. The number of moles of a non-reacting mixture is equal to sum of number of moles of its component. So okay, with this we'll stop today. Any doubt till here? Any doubts till here?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Right. I'll stop recording. Yes.